So this is the whole breakdown on the, yeah, let's take a look at this.
This is the paperwork that I have. This is the book about his basses and stuff. John, okay. And so he had this serious collection.
He did.
Yeah,
he did indeed.
Here it is. This is the guitar.
That's it right there. The Holy Trinity, a V, an Explorer.
When they took the picture, the knob, the volume knob was not there, or the tone knob was gone when they took the picture. This is the guitar I'm going to show you downstairs.
A lot more than 250 grand since this book was made.
Okay, since we're talking about the 59,
let's
59 now. 59 will be not here, it will be here. Here it is.
Pretty.
That's the famous, or infamous, that used to belong to John Entwistle.
One of the finest examples I've ever heard him play.
Yeah.
Yes, sirree, and that was 1999.
All right, so thank you so much for watching that last video we did with Christian down in Portland. A lot of those Les Pauls we got have already sold, but we ran into a unique situation, which we wanted to show you guys. You know, we deal with a lot of these 58, 59, 60 Les Pauls, these $500,000 guitars, and you know, where are the fake ones? You know they're out there. And we do come across them every once in a while. So we have a unique situation, like I said, where we have a celebrity-owned, highly published 59 burst that is not an authentic Les Paul burst, or standard, if you will. Amazing guitar, but it would have passed a lot of shops. They have passed shops, they've passed collectors, they've been in books. They have all original 59 parts basically, but the wood themselves is not Gibson. We're grateful to catch these and we have such a good system for it. Thought it'd be a cool way to show you guys kind of how we do that. Show you guys, like I said, the other side of dealing with these high price, high value instruments and sussing out the fakes. So we're gonna head over to Tyler's room. He's gonna give you the breakdown on going through these and what we found out. All right guys, Tyler here, and now we're back in the shop with the guitar in question. Now, this was certainly John Entwistle's guitar. We know that. We have all the ownership history, all the receipts. It's very well documented, as I'm sure you know. It's been included in a number of books and also mentioned in a huge number of interviews that John did while he owned this guitar. We even have a letter directly from John claiming that this is one of the finest guitars that he'd ever played, and it was, and I quote, the shining jewel of his collection. So there's not really any sort of doubt of the guitar in that respect. However, as I mentioned, it has kind of been in the public eye for quite a long time now, and it's always drawn a little bit of suspicion from the vintage guitar community. You know, in forums and otherwise, there's always kind of been a discussion about a couple things that maybe didn't look quite right about this guitar. The consensus, though, always came back to, well, I'd have to see it in person to know for sure whether this is real or whether this is a counterfeit burst. And now, for the first time today, we have the chance to do that. Now, there are a number of really great, unquestionable things about this guitar. These are two completely untouched original PAFs from the late 50s. The covers have never been off, there are no doubt. This bridge and tailpiece are absolutely genuine Gibson from the late 50s or early 60s. Little things like the knobs and the switch are undoubtedly Gibson items from the 50s as well. If you go up to the headstock, we'll see period correct Grovers and a truss rod cover that is absolutely accurate. But when we look a little bit closer than that, that's when we start to see things that kind of raise some suspicion. So one of the first things that we noticed when this guitar came in was its incredible weight, and not in a good way. It's about 10.5 pounds. This is extremely, extremely heavy for a burst. I don't think I've ever seen one weigh more than that. This by itself wouldn't completely disqualify the guitar, but it is something to note right off the bat. The second thing that you notice is the neck profile. Obviously, the 1959 neck profile is iconic. It's what everyone is going after. And this neck is extremely, extremely slim, almost like a 60. Now, some of you might say, well, maybe it's a late 59, but the serial number and some of the other features of the guitar do not indicate that it's a late 59. So the next thing that I noticed that was a little bit suspicious about this guitar is the carve of the top. Now, Gibson's carve on the Les Paul model in the late 50s was very distinctive. The differences can be subtle, but if you know what you're looking for, it's very easy to spot when the carve is not right, and in this case, the carve is not right. The belly in this area is much too flat, And then the recurve around the edges is also too shallow. You'd expect to see quite a bit more exaggerated dip along the edges, and obviously that's not a good sign. Another suspicious thing that I noticed upon looking at the top is that in some of these areas where the top coat is removed, has chipped off, you can see that the stain for the burst was applied directly to the wood. Now, the effect that this has is very, very good for the flame. It makes any sort of figuring the guitar has really, really jump. The problem with that is Gibson did not finish in that manner, at least in the 1950s. They might today, I have no idea. But it's certainly not something you'd see on a late 50s Les Paul, so that's another really bad thing. One last thing about the top is an issue that I've heard discussed for years and years and years about this guitar specifically, and that is what is the specific species of the maple on this top. Now, a lot of people think it's Western big leaf maple. Some of the figuring, it's very, very straight figuring. That's pretty consistent with Western big leaf. It doesn't have any mineral streaks like you'd see on Eastern maple. So a lot of people think it's Western. Of course, in the 50s, Gibson was using Eastern maple. Obviously, there are a ton of people out there who are way more versed in species identification than I am. However, I can definitely see how this could be Western big leaf maple. All right, so now we got the neck pickup out, and we can see that there is some trouble. If you know anything about legitimate burst routes, you can identify that these wings are nowhere near the correct shape. Also, the depth and shape of those kind of screw routes are completely incorrect. The tenon and mortise look a little bit strange. The route for these wires also does not look correct. And the finish inside is just super thick, caked on, and nothing like a real burst would look. It's funny, now that we're concentrating on this area of the guitar, I've noticed a couple more things. This pickguard mounting screw here should be dead even with the 22nd fret. And as you can see, it's quite a bit pushed this way towards the body, which is not correct. These plastics have all been replaced. They are newer, however, the hole should be in the same spot. And also, this 15th fret inlay is fat, which is just way too wide, way too big. It looks like the 12th fret inlay. Yeah, shouldn't be that size. That's not a good sign. All right, so we've got the control cover off. We can see that there are two bumblebee capacitors. That's a good sign. Unfortunately, that's where the good things about this area kind of end, because just about everything else is wrong. The pots are from the 50s, but they're not all from a set. They're kind of hodgepodge together, which obviously wouldn't be the case from the factory. Perhaps most damningly, though, this overall shape of the control cover is totally wrong. I took one off a real 59 and tried to fit it over there, and the plastic does not fit within that route. So obviously that's not great. Just visually, you can see this ledge sort of route. That shape is completely off, nowhere near where it should be. In addition, the bottom of this route is also totally smooth. It doesn't have the normal contours and rest that we'd see on a real burst. Oh yeah, and also the jack route is not even close to in the correct position. It's way pushed up high right here. It's just not right. All right, so looking up at the headstock, there's a couple things that kind of catch my eye. The first of which is a set of vertical checks that run the length of the headstock down from the nut all the way up to the top. And they are completely straight and completely vertical, which is very, very strange. There is a holly veneer on the top of this headstock, but it almost looks like it's a multi-piece, like they're starting to check along those glue lines. That's not typically the manner that you see natural checking occur. The other big glaring thing up on the headstock is just the shape of the Gibson logo. There are a couple areas on the logo here, kind of at the bottom of the I, the bottom of the O, kind of around the B, that are very angular, and you can tell they weren't scraped very well. I know Gibson also didn't always scrape well, but it doesn't look quite consistent with other logos that I've seen from the era. Wow, so I know that's kind of a lot to process, a lot going on. But I think it's very safe to say, despite its airtight provenance as a John Entwistle guitar, this is not a Gibson product for the late 1950s. So obviously there's a phone call that needs to be made to Christian, the owner, about this guitar before we proceed. Luckily that's not a call that I have to make. That's something I'm gonna let Trevor take care of.
Hey, Trevor, how are you doing? There he is, man. What's going on?
Well, sunny, warm. What do you want more?
Good, man. Yeah. So, yeah, man, all these guitars turned out awesome, and we talked briefly about a little bit of a surprise with the with a couple of the sunbursts, and especially the you know, famous 59 that's been in books and has gone through, we know of at least 1 or 2 shops that didn't catch it as a really, really good fake burst, but it was kind of one of those deals where they didn't charge you crazy original money, but they also said it was original, right?
Yeah, so what happened is that, in fact, I got this guitar in a store in Toronto, and the gentleman who sold it to me knew me because it was already several years since I told him that I was looking for an original 59. Okay, so when the day came, he told me right off the bat that this guitar had some few modifications. Okay, that was the tuning pegs instead of the plastic tulip original Gibson, okay, were replaced.
Yeah.
If this is John Entwistle who replaced them, or he bought the guitar with the tuning peg already replaced.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer to that. I still cannot know.
Yeah.
Second thing, I know that they're not 59 plastic. So this is what I can say about this guitar. And when the salesperson told me if I was interested, knowing that there were 2 parts that were not the original, I said, yes, I'm interested in 2. He said, so what you need to know is that this guitar has been sitting in John Entwistle's bass collection. You can even see it on the book.
I mean, I knew about that guitar for years based off that book. And I went, wow, look at the top on that thing.
Yeah, exactly, okay? And so he said, so therefore the price is not the full price for a guitar of that age, of that quality, etc., etc. So, and I traded one of my gold top, okay?
Yeah.
50 grand to add up to the price.
Yeah.
So this is how we made the deal.
Yeah, see, I mean,
Or when I left the store, I knew that this guitar has a story about memorabilia about John Entwistle, and the tuning pegs were not original, and the pickup frames were not original, and I was happy with it.
well, we know it's a really cool guitar. It's got a lot of valuable parts, and we kind of discussed this, like, how do you approach this? It's kind of like, you know, we want to make sure that everybody knows this is not an authentic Gibson, but gosh, somebody put amazing vintage parts on what seems to be some old wood too, or a really nice choice piece of, you know, mahogany and whatnot. And being published, and the mystique of John having it, and even the mystique of it kind of like going through some places, which there's value there. So, you know, are you okay with us trying to still turn this into lemonade for you and make something good out of it?
Let's try to make something good out of it. If it does not happen, it does not happen, okay?
Cool.
It's just Mother Nature that will give us a sign, okay?
Yeah.
So there's no pushing, there's no forcing. We put it on the market. Somebody's interested, that's fine. Somebody's not interested, I take it back, no problem.
Perfect. Well, we're gonna get to it, man, and very cool guitar nonetheless. Appreciate you, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure talking to you, and I'll see you soon.
Bye, Christian.
Bye-bye, Trevor.
I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of aspect of the business, and we want to show you this on video, you know, this whole burst busters thing. It's really hard to validate these. We want to set the record straight and make it very clear this is not a vintage Gibson Les Paul. This is not a Gibson Les Paul. It is a very, very well thought out counterfeit with some awesome vintage components. That being said, a great guitar. It sounds awesome, it plays awesome. There's value in what this is. What it's worth, well, we'll try to figure that out for you, but we wanted to show you guys behind the scenes, and I'll show you how this guitar sounds. So I'm gonna hand over to Skylar Mihal. He's playing through a Vibrolux Reverb. Hope you enjoy. See you next time.
Bye.